Okay, here we go with our third theory lesson, and today we're going to be talking about chords and how we build those based on the intervals that we learned in the previous lesson. We'll start off with the most basic kind of chord, which is called a triad. And a triad has a root, which is usually the tonic note of the chord. And the second note will be the interval of a third above the root, and the third note of the triad will be the interval of a fifth above that root. So let's take a look at a C major triad and see how this all works. So here we have the C major triad. We can see the three notes C, E, and G. The root of this chord is the C, and we can see that a third above that, the interval of a third, is an E. And the G is an interval of a third above the E, but also a perfect fifth above the C in the root of the chord. So a triad is made out of these three notes, root, third, and fifth. So those intervals are referring to the notes above the lowest note in the chord, the C. Now if we look at the intervals, we'll see that the interval between C and E is a major third, because in the key of C, E is natural. But if we look at the interval between E and G, we'll see that's a minor third, because in the key of E, G would be sharp. So it's been lowered a half step. So this is a major triad. A major triad is made up of a major third on the bottom and a minor third on the top. All major triads are composed this way. Another thing to point out is that this interval from C to G I mentioned earlier is a perfect fifth in this major triad. It won't always be a perfect fifth, but it is in a major triad. Alright, let's listen and see how this triad sounds. We'll first hear the broken triad and then hear it played vertically as a chord. Now we're going to change one note in this triad, and notice what we're going to do is take the E and change it to an E flat. This makes that first interval from C up to E flat a minor third, because in the key of C, E is natural, so C to E flat is a minor third, making the E flat up to the G a major third, because in the key of E flat, G is natural. So when we have a minor third and then a major third, that makes this a minor triad. So it's kind of upside down from the major triad, with the minor third on the bottom and the major third on top. Now let's listen to the difference between this and the major triad. And one more important thing to note is that even though this is a minor triad, the interval from the C up to the G is still a perfect fifth. So both major and minor triads, that interval of a fifth is a perfect fifth. So to sum up our brief little video here, a major triad is built up of a major third on bottom plus a minor third on top. And the minor triad just sort of inverts that, and we take a minor third on the bottom and stack a major third on top of it. So what we're seeing is that the way we define chords and how they sound and how they're structured is based on the intervals that we use to make up the chords. So this is our first little introduction to how triads work, major and minor. There's a whole lot more. I promise it gets a lot more complicated than this, but I think this is enough for our first introduction to how chords and triads work built up of intervals.